If you keep hardy aroids in the UK, you'll know that there's a dormancy cycle. And what that means is you plant them, they grow, and then they die back at the end of the season. And what you can do is either take those tubers, or corms as they're sometimes called, out of the ground and store them, or you can leave them in the ground if they're hardy enough. This video is about how you can take them out and store them. And it's one of two ways. Another way is to keep them actually in soil. So we'll cover how I do it with little Hessian bags in this video, and then another video we'll look at how we dry store them in soil. So when you keep hardy aroids, they have to, well, one of their biggest differences is the fact that they have a dormancy cycle, and that means that during the end of your summer season, depending on where you are in the world, as they come into autumn and then into winter, they will start to, the leaves will drop, and they will basically go back to, they will die all the way down, and there will just be the tuber or the corm left in the soil. Now you've got a couple of choices really depending on the species. There's a lot of species that I keep that do this. So you've got Arum, you've got Sauromatum, which is like the voodoo lily, you've got Amorphophallus, you've got Arisarum, as I've said, these are all Arisaema. And most of these will either A, be kept in the tub but out of the extreme cold. So some of them can stay outside as long as they're covered from frost. Or some of them will come into our new greenhouse, or some of them will even go into the house, the ones that are from a very hot climate. But some need to be pulled. So some that are in the ground and some that are in some of these pots, like this one that's gone down here, will have to be pulled, and that's what this video is going to really go through. So this is Arisaema Colocasia. So this is one of my favorite ones from Japan, and this one is clearly it's dropped. Normally they drop a little bit more than this, so they wilt all the way down, and then you can just pull the leaves off. But what we'll do is we'll take this one now and we'll have a look at what's been going on in the soil, and then we'll have a look at how we then store what there is in that soil, the tuber. So let's go and pour this out, and then we'll have a look at what's in there. So my usual labelling, so we know we've got, let's see if we can focus. So we know we've got Arisaema, it's Colocasia, 822, so it's only been with us since this summer. So we knew when we bought it that this would go down quite quickly. So that's the label, and it's important that I have these labels and they have a hole in them here. So that travels with the tuber, and you'll see that when we go to the bagging up process. So we'll keep that on one side, and we'll literally just, there is actually a label with it from the grower, and we'll just tip this one out and see what we've got. Now you've got to be careful here. I normally just tip it out very slowly so I can see if there's any offsets, which there probably won't be with this one because it's so new to us. So just tip it out really carefully, and then just start having a look at what's in there. So this one's actually quite wet, which isn't really too good of a sign, so probably would have kept it a bit drier than this if I had the choice. And you can see here underneath, this is the tuber here, and these are the roots that have grown over the summer, and you can see little new growths here. So these are new growths sprouting up, so I'm going to try and not damage those. I probably should have left this one a bit longer because it's still quite green and solid here, so I might actually just pot this back up for another few weeks, and there's no harm in doing that because I've not done any damage to the roots, and I can dry it out a little bit. I can dry this soil, and what I'll do is I'll go and grab a few that have been out for and have dried out for a week or two. I think that's a worm there somewhere. I think I can feel it underneath wiggling. So yeah, so it's good to check your tubers like this, and it's a good, this one is a, if you look underneath, it's a good solid corm under here. It's nice and healthy, lots of roots on it there, which will come off at the, you know, once this is ready to go into storage, but this won't be a problem over winter at all. So let me go and grab some other tubers. I'm going to put this one back actually, and I'm going to leave, even though it looks dead,
That's the important thing. It's not really ready to go down yet. So let's go and grab some that we've prepared earlier, as they used to say on Blue Peter.
So as I said, we won't do that one, but I'll find another Colocasia that went down a week or so ago, and it'll be in this little collection here. So what I do now is I take it from the pot and I dry it out. So I let it dry thoroughly, and you can see here this is an Arisaema candidissimum, and I've got about 5 or 6 of these, and they're all dry and they're all ready to be stored. So, and they go from various different sizes depending on the age of the plant. And you can see there's all different sizes because they're all different ages, and they all look differently because each species has a different looking tube. And you can see here's another one. So this one is, let's have a look. So this is Sauromatum, and this one was labelled incorrectly. So that happens quite a lot with these, because you can put something in the ground and something else has been left there and it comes up. So this one's still got its roots on it, which can come off now before we store it. But that's a good example of what one's like. So you can see you can just pull these off. The roots just come away. Once it's dry, that's not a problem to lose them. So let's take, for example, these here, and we'll take them and I'll show you how I store them for the winter. So I've brought that tray into the house, and I've also brought out this, which is my tuber box. And this is pretty much how I store most of my tubers and corms and rhizomes for the winter. So the basic method is, it's a Hessian bag. Nothing goes into any of these bags unless it's completely dry. And in the bag, I just drop in a few chips of bark, just to to help it, just so it doesn't get knocked. And also to take a bit of the moisture, should there be any that gets in the bag as well. So I found that just a few of them help as well. Don't know how valid that bit is, but that's something that I do. So what we basically do is we find one that's ready. So let's take this one and have a look at what we've got. Now the important part, as I mentioned, is that the label always travels with it. So this one here is Arisaema flavum. It was pulled on the 9th of, in September of 22, which means it was only a week ago. And this is just who I got it off. And this is the label, as I say, that's got a hole in it. So that can travel with this set of tubers. So we'll take a look at what we had. I've got one here. And that's all dry. And you can't really see any roots on it, or there's one little eye there. This is where the new growth will come. You can see it looks like an apple, the top of an apple, and it's completely clean on the bottom. So there's nothing wrong with that one. That one will go down absolutely fine. So have a look at another one. And this one's a bit dirtier actually, so let's have a look at this. So normally I would have cleaned them off more than this. I don't like them going in too dirty into the bags because it just collects in the bag. So just pull any more dead roots off and just check if there's any new growth, which I can't see. Now something broke off then as we were working, so you've got to keep your eye on this, because the thing that broke off could easily be a corm like this. And this could be a cormlet or a bulblet. They have different names, but basically it's an offset off the main corm. And that actually could grow into a new plant. So just be mindful, if there's anything that looks like a bulb or a corm that comes off, then you keep that and store it in the bag with the main one. Never discard it, just in case it can have the capability of turning into a full plant. Now the way these work is, each season they go into the ground, they get planted again in March, and they grow from one of these, come out of the top, as I've said, and then this tuber here, this mass gets used up as the plant comes up. And then what you have to do then is you have to feed it through the end of that season to make sure that it gets a new one of these built. And quite often you can see one stacked on top of the other. As this one shrivels, the next one is building up.
So, what you don't want to see is every year the tuber or the corm getting smaller. They have to be getting bigger, which means you're feeding them well and they're growing well. And the plants have been getting enough light and photosynthesis is occurring, and the tuber is then, storing up for its next cycle. And that's what it is. It's all about a cycle that these things have got to get through. If it doesn't make it through, it doesn't get enough energy to build up the corm, you might start losing them. They might get smaller and smaller, and eventually you might just find that there isn't one there when you pull the plant. So that's a very real possibility if you're not looking after these properly. So make sure you feed them heavily. So we're ready to do these. There's two, the main ones, and one little offset, and we're going to put them into a bag. So when I started this process, I bought loads of these 2 different sizes of bags. This one and this one. This is about 7 centimeters across, and this is about 12 or 13 for the larger and smaller corms. Anything larger than that, I store it in dry soil. So for these, I'm going to get all of these into one. So basically just put a few dry chips in there so that I've got, as I said, a little bit of protection around the bag, and also to take some of the moisture if there is any. And then I literally just pop in the 2. They're like little potato sacks is the way I describe them. 2 of them, and wherever that little corm is. We had a corm somewhere, didn't we? So where is it? Oh, he's over here. So yeah, pop him in there. So that gives you all of, let me just double check there's nothing else lying around, which there isn't. And then basically what I do is I undo one end of this string, like so. You don't have to do this process, but this is just how over the years I have decided to do it, and I'm not really that far into it. I'm fairly new with these, which are Arisaema, even though I've kept a lot of the others for a while now. I just pop it on the bag like that, so that the label that came with it is now attached to it, and then retie that, like so. Knot back in it. And then I just pull the bag, like that, and then twist that round, and then pull it around the neck and use the bottom of the label like that, and that makes a really nice, neat labelled package like that. So let me just show you what they look like. I'll just grab a handful out of here. So I've got them categorized into different species. So I've got Arisaema, I've got Sauromatum, I've got, these here are all Arisaema. So everything you're seeing there is Arisaema. But in the larger one, I'll just reach over, we've got these, which are Dracunculus vulgaris, which is the great big dragon arum that you might see. So I've got several bags of dragon arum. And I've also got, that's Arisaema again, more dragon arum here, I think. Oh no, this is Amorphophallus bulbifer. So this is the big Amorphophallus that you'll see. So that one went down a few weeks ago, and that one's, I can actually feel on this one, there's actually some growth already on the top. So what I do is I try and go through these bags every once a month and just make sure there's no rot or anything that's coming out that's that could be causing any damage. That one's another Dracunculus vulgaris. So let's open one up and just see if there's anything that we can see in terms of any movement. So because they can carry on growing. So we'll open this one, which is a Dracunculus vulgaris. So we'll take a look at this stored one, and there you go. So this one has already got new growth, and that's the reason why I put chips in there, is to help it, to make sure that these don't get knocked off or bashed. You can see that one's coming out as well. Now some of them, like this one, some advice I was given with Dracunculus vulgaris is just leave it in the ground. So I'm beginning to wish that I had left it in the ground. And you can see here, this is one tuber and this is the next tuber there. So this is the one that was used up or was being used up, and this is the new one that's grown. So this one is a bit odd, really, because you would have expected this to be bigger and this to be smaller. So that doesn't bode well in my eyes. It's still big enough to take, but I'm going to feed these much more heavily next year. Now that I'm a little bit more experienced with those, they were new to me last season. So again, tie them up, just whiz it all around, and then all the way around. Seems very exact, doesn't it, just for tying a bag, and then pop that up there. But this process is lovely. It seems to work really well for me, and the bags always stay tied, as you can see in the box. So it's quite a cute way of doing it. We'll do one more. So this is another Arisaema concinum. So we'll have a look at this one. So we've got new growth that's going to come out of there. You've got the remains of the roots here. No roots at the bottom, notice, because the roots come out of the top and just underneath the new growth. But it's also got this, which is a little offset. And as I said earlier, you can leave those on if they're quite solid, and just replant them in the new year with that on it. Now you could break that off, but if it's on there and doing okay, then there's no reason, no reason to do that. When I plant in the ground, I have a wider label as well, so I keep that in there as well. So that's that one, and that's pretty much how I do it. So that is pretty much the process for almost all of my hardy aroids now. And I'm not saying that I have the best process, and I am fairly new at this. So there may be some things that I want to change, like the bark chips I'm not so sure on. So it's worth having a play with different things in there. What you don't want to do is desiccate them. You don't want to dry it out. So I didn't want to put any desiccation bags in there or anything like that, because it would just be then too dry and too dangerous. So what I'll do now is I'll take all of these, pop them back in the box. I probably won't look at these again now until something like November. I mean, I've got quite a few more to prep, so I'll be loading more in after I finish this video. But it's exactly the same process. So everything in that box will be prepared into here, and they'll all be bagged exactly as I've shown you, like this one.